If you have over $200,000 sitting stagnant in your bank, retirement account, or home equity, then you're literally losing money. On this show, you learn how to get that money working for you consistently and conservatively. Learn to grow your nest egg with your host, Sean Winslow. Let's dive in.
What's going on, everyone? I'm Sean Winslow, and this is the Multifamily Money Podcast. On today's Finance Friday episode, we're going to get into another topic when it comes to college tuition. I know we had an episode a couple weeks ago where I talked about, how to pay off that debt faster. Well, I'm going to talk about a solution, how you as a parent, if your child is going to go to a university, to a college, this is an excellent way to invest and save money to pay for said college. But before I get into that, again, a little housekeeping as always. So thank you for everyone who's tuning back in, and welcome to the new listeners out there. I really appreciate it. And again, the only way for this to grow and to get to more eyes and ears is for you, one, to give it a rating and review if you haven't already, and then two, share it with someone, share it with a friend, a family member, someone who you think could get some value out of this. But let me read a recent rating and review from a Doreen. It is titled Excellent, 5-star review. Sean W. asks excellent questions, and his summation is always on point. Thanks for sharing your tips with the world. Well, thank you, Doreen. I really appreciate that review. Well, let's just get right into it today. Today's going to be a quick one. It's just going to be actionable steps that you can take to invest for your child's future. First, I just want to give obviously a little background. Like I mentioned in the past, this could be a whole different episode on where college tuition rates are at these days, how they keep climbing, and whether it's worth it based on what you're going to get paid afterwards. So that's a whole different conversation. But today is for those that are going to send their children to school, or their child wants to go to school. And this is a great way to start an investment plan for them. So currently, last week we were talking about inflation. So let's talk about where inflation is at when it comes to college tuition. In the US, it averages about 8% per year, which means it's going to double in price every 9 years at that rate. Now, that's the most recent rate over the last decade or so, like 5 to 10 years. But if we look back 20 years, it's increased by 144%. That's crazy. More than doubled. Almost on the verge of tripling. And pay has definitely not done that, as we all know. Now let's take a look at real estate, because after all, this is a real estate focused podcast, obviously with the personal finance spin on Fridays. But real estate, if we look back over the last 20 years, and that's taking into account like the average home rate right now is about $303,000. And in 2000, it was at 126,000. So that's a gain of 140%. So pretty on par with how much tuition has increased. Now, if we take a look at, now you may make the argument like, hey, Sean, yeah, but this past year has seen crazy inflation in home prices due to, the current situation we're in, the health situation we're in. So, okay, if we back it up to last year before they really took off, we're talking about it's still an increase of over 100%, so 106%. So I think you can get to where kind of my investment strategy is on this. And that's to buy a property in your child's name. Obviously, you're going to be on the deed as well. It's for your child. You buy this said property. So let's say, like I mentioned before, the average home price in the United States is $303,000. So let's call it an even $300,000. You're going to buy this. Obviously, you're going to use leverage because that's the powerful part. So like I mentioned before, that appreciation, that 100+% appreciation is going to be exponentially greater due to the leverage you're going to be able to use. And by leverage, I mean just simply the debt that you can use to acquire real estate. So what you're going to do is buy that property. Let's say it's a duplex for $300,000. Now, traditionally, I've talked about using 30-year fixed debt. Well, we're going to use a 15-year fixed debt. Well, wait, Sean, isn't this going to increase my monthly payment? Yes. But the point of this property is not the cash flow. The point of this property is, one, to protect your money from inflation, and two, to capture that appreciation. And then within 15 years, you have it completely paid off. So you do this around the time your child is born. By the time they go to college, you have a property that is completely paid off and it's appreciated over time. And let's say it's not that, aggressive 100% appreciation. Even if it just, remained around the same, you have anywhere, from $300,000 to a $350,000 property. That's all paid off. You could either sell it, take the cash and pay for tuition, or you could finance it, take some cash out and pay for it that way, and then continue to still have an investment property. Now, just to look at some numbers so you can see what I'm talking about or hear what I'm talking about. So if you had that 15-year fixed on a $300,000 home, you put 20% down, which comes to about $60,000, which you're going to also have to come up with some closing costs as well, obviously. Currently 15-year fixed rate is 2.5% around there, plus or minus, 10, 20 basis points. That's low. That debt is cheap. That's going to give you an interest payment of $1,800. Excuse me, that's going to give you a monthly payment of $1,800. And that's also factoring in not just your principal and interest, homeowners insurance, property tax. And now let's take a look. If you, obviously, not everyone is in the position to put 20% down on another property, to invest for their child. Well, what if you house hacked it? So now you put 3.5% down. Still doing 15 years, interest rate 2.5%, plus you're probably going to have PMI, which is the mortgage insurance you have for doing something like an FHA loan, 3.5% down. So that's going to increase your mortgage payment to about $2,200. So in that scenario, you're house hacking, you could fill the other unit, right? Well, the average rent on say they're 2 beds, is about $1,200 to $1,400, depending on where you are in the country. Someone's a lot higher than that. So that's going to eat into half of that for you, right? Let's call it $1,200, $1,400. That's at $1,200, you're talking about $1,000 you're paying to live there, and then you're going to be paying it down by the time it's 15 years. Now, in the other case, you're putting 20% down. Maybe you're not house hacking it. Then you got to come up, it's 1,800 minus that 1,200 to 1,400. You're only, putting up $600 to $400. And in some markets, you might even be able to break even. And the way that rent has been increasing lately, it's been increasing more than anywhere from, on par to more than home prices. I could see a lot of situations where you're breaking even. And the point of this, like I said, is not to cash flow. It's to capture, it's to pay down that property using leverage that a bank is going to get you, protect yourself against inflation that is clearly here, and be able to have a completely paid off property so that you can sell it or refinance and get the cash out, which is tax free, by the way, and pay for your child's tuition. That's what I'm going to do. If you're in the situation to do that, I would highly recommend you do that as well. Now, if you got any questions on this, as always, like I say, reach out to me. Best place to do that is on Instagram. Find me, Sean Winslow. And always, my @ is in the show notes. So find me there if you have any questions. I hope this one helped. When I kind of first discovered this tactic, it was one of those like aha moments, those revelations that it just makes so much sense, because you're not going to have to worry about, the stock market, maybe it will outperform real estate in the next 10 years, but it also could take a huge dive. And real estate generally, historically, has had 300 times less down periods. So it's not as volatile. It's not going to take these huge swings down where you're just going to lose money. Yeah, it might not be like a market today where you can literally get under contract in less than a day with multiple offers, but it's something that is tangible. You can obviously refinance, pull that money out tax-free, and provide your child with a great education. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. As always, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. Get that money working for you so you can provide yourself and your family with a great life. And you can achieve that financial freedom so you can do great things in the world. All right, catch you on the next one.
Hey, this is Sean Winslow. After being in the financial service industry for years and having candid conversations with good people just like you, I realized that so many of us are wanting an investment strategy that provides solid returns and consistent income without the bumps in the road. There's little known secret that your financial advisor doesn't want you to know. There is an investment out there that is less volatile and the returns are stronger. Get more details by going to greenbriercg.com and clicking on the free e-report. And by the way, if this show has provided you any value, then feel free to leave an honest written review and of course share it with a friend who needs it. See you next week for another great show.